Hi friends, welcome to CA Professional Hub channel. Today we are going to discuss about an important Excel feature. I think most of us handle the larger volume of the collect data in Excel spreadsheet. When we handle the larger data, we faces the few challenges. Let me explain the important challenges which we are facing. The first one it is like a difficulty in sending the larger file through email. Like most of the companies restrict the file attachment size for for example it's 5 MB or 10 MB dependent on the company policies. So that means that we can't send an email of an attachment which is more than a 5 MB. So in that case we really wants to the size of the Excel to be reduced to the less than the 5 MB. The second point is like Excel take a more processing time when we use it in simple formulas like lookups or like summary functions. So to avoid these challenges, I suggest two best methods which reduce the size limit significantly. That the first method is like save the Excel format type from Excel workbook to the Excel binary workbook. I'm just repeating the point number one. The save the Excel format type from Excel workbook to Excel binary workbook. Let me demonstrate with an example. I hope you are seeing a test data workbook. Let me open the test data workbook. Yeah. It is opening. Yeah, it was open. Okay, fine. You can see the type of the Excel workbook. If you see, it is a Microsoft Excel worksheet. So if you change the format of the type of the workbook into an Excel binary, it will reduce the size significantly. So I'm just opening the test data. I'm going to the file, save as, and the browse the location to save. I'm just naming it is an text data reduced format, and the saving the type as an Excel binary workbook as I discussed earlier. I can save this one. Perfect, it was saved. Let us check that the size of the file got reduced or not. I'm going to the folder. Yeah. Oh, it's good. You can see that the previous the size was at 3 MB. Now it was reduced to the around the 1 MB. Yeah, the first method is very useful to reduce and larger files. Okay, fine, perfect. Now I'm going to the second method. Delete the basic data which we are used to create in a pivot table in an Excel workbook. I'm just repeating again the second point. Delete the basic data which we are used to create an Excel pivot table. Okay, so let me demonstrate that with an example. I'm using the same workbook test data reducer format which was already open. Okay, I'm just giving putting in a pivot table. Just pivot table. I'm selecting then a rows in pivot table. Perfect. I have selected a few fields as a rows and the few fields as a value to get a pivot table. I'm just saving my Excel workbook. Name test data. You can see that name test data in the reducer format. Let us check if we have done only the simple pivot table of a data sheet. Let me rename the sheet as a pivot. Okay, pivot. I have renamed, and then I'm saving the workbook. So we will check that whether the size limit of the Excel workbook was increased or was it decreased, or if it is the same thing. I'm just going to the folder. Yeah, the test data reducer format that we are working on the Excel workbook. Oh, the file size got increased from the 942 KB to 1942 KB. Oh, understood. So So that if you put in a pivot table also, that Excel, the size of the Excel workbook will be increasing. Okay, fine. I will the what I have discussed it for an as a second point. Delete the basic data. I went to an Excel workbook. This is in a basic data which we used for creating the private table. Delete the basic data which we are using for the pivot table. We can delete. Perfect. And then I can save. And then now we can check the size limit of an Excel workbook after deleting the pivot table. Oh, it again, it reduces to the 993 again. It's almost like an original file. Oh, perfect. This way we can reduce. And so for the second point, like basically most of the people will have doubt. You have deleted the basic data for the creating the pivot table. Shall I can I do like in a pivot table again without any data? Can I select multiple columns as in rows for getting an amount? Yeah, you can able to even without having any data in the Excel in the front end. You can select, you can use the pivot table adjustment. You can check the adjustment column is coming. You can check some test column is coming. So oh, it's very nice, like without having any data, the sheet that the pivot is working. So basically that Excel what it will does is like when you having in a data sheet, it will create in one more data sheet for the pivot table, so you need not worry. Oh, okay, fine. And so there will be two other doubts which will came. How to get in a data sheet after deleting the data sheet in the Excel workbook? It was very simple. We can use, so whenever if you want a data sheet, we can get a data sheet. Fine. You can go to the grand total. If you see, I'm just going to a grand total. This is a grand total column. Yeah, this is the grand total. Go to the total amount or something. Double click on the amount. Oh, nice. We got a data sheet that we were deleted previously. It's super perfect. And you can rename it as a data sheet. Perfect. And you can save and go to the pivot table. And like the most of the people will have one more doubt, like if I update the value in the data sheet, can the pivot will be refreshed? Yeah, you can do the before that. You just check that whether the range is the same. Go to the change data, pivot table analysis, change the data source. Yeah, it was already taken that the range of the table. Anyhow, we will again like select the range of a table for creating in a pivot table. Just selected the range of the table and then click OK. Yeah, perfectly okay. Now you can change that. Let us try to change the account type. It is account type from expenses to the revenue. Perfect. I'm just selecting an expenses and changing it to the revenue. I'm just doing for the all other columns, all other rows. Yeah. Now my data was changed to the from expenses to the revenue in the account type column. Go to the pivot table, do the data and do the refresh all or refresh. It was you can observe in the DF column perfectly. Yeah, it was changed to the revenue. Yeah, it was easy. It was quite easy. So without this, after deleting the data sheet, we can pull back in a data sheet in the Excel workbook using the pivot table. We can pull back. We can again create an Excel link within a pivot to the data sheet. So like ideally, like basically, like the most of our cases, like we will have an one table. We will work on we will work on within a pivot tables which is having a summarized data that will be something too useful for a client per se. Uh, so normally we will not delete a data sheet in the workbook, and we will save it in the same thing, and then we will give it to the other client. If we see without deleting a data sheet in a workbook, the size will be almost in a double. It is like creating the one more table for using in a pivot table. So it's like my suggestion is like when you having a data sheet, and when you did some work in the pivot table, and if you wanted to show this pivot table to the clients or other people, so you delete this data sheet, and the same your like file size will be the normal, and you can send it to the respective parties that you want to send. So to conclude, I suggested the two best method. One is like you need to save that Excel workbook, the format from the Excel workbook to an Excel binary workbook. So there you can reduce the size of the Excel workbook. And the second point which I will suggest is like if you have a data within a pivot table, you can delete the data sheet, and we can with the pivot table sheet only you can send it to the client. That's the two methods that I will suggest you for reducing an Excel size. Yeah, I hope this video was useful to all of us. Thank you very much for watching the video. We'll meet you again in the next video. Thanks a lot.